Hi, everybody. I'm Elaine Provenzano with the Tuckahoe Library. I'm delighted to have Nick Cinzano from the Tuckahoe History Committee, the digital archivist and historian. He's going to share with us his fantastic trove, part 2 of Tuckahoe Before and After. So I want everybody to give a warm welcome to Nick. And Nick, I'm going to hand the program over to you.
Okay, very good, Elaine. Thank you. Uh, Before I start, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's Zoom presentation on Tuckahoe history. As Lainey said, this is the second program on Tuckahoe before and after. This program, we have a lot more locations throughout Tuckahoe through the years. Um, at the end of the program, I will try to answer as many questions as I can. I was very impressed with the number of people that turned out for our first presentation, and it only goes to show that history is alive and well in Tuckahoe and Eastchester. If you missed the first presentation, it can be found on YouTube under the Tuckahoe Library. You have to understand the programs are a work in progress. We're constantly updating. We're constantly trying to add as much information as possible. Um, so if you have any location requests for future programs, please let me know at the end of the program and I'll try to accommodate. The last program we did for part 1, we had a question regarding one of the slides, and it was in reference to the Masonic Temple, and that's where I'm going to start. As you can see, the first slide that we have is at the intersection of Main Street and Columbus Avenue. And as we look north, you could see construction going on in the background. I just put a highlighter. Can you see the highlighter on the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's where the construction is going on for the Masonic Temple. And now we're going to add a few more slides to try to elaborate the construction. Okay, here's a great picture. This is across the street from the Masonic Temple looking north. And if you look at the construction, just beyond it, you could see the Union Congregational Church steeple. And in the left corner, you could see the roof of the Main Street School. So it's construction's going on. This was all a rock mountain. So they have a lot of stone to cut through to make the Masonic Temple. This photograph is great in the respect that if you look in the background, let me zoom in. If you look, there's a pile of stone behind the workers. The stone goes up a ramp. They bring the stone. Oh, pardon me. They get the stone, they bring it up a ramp, and it gets put into a rock crusher. And they have chutes that come down, and the rock becomes gravel. And they use that probably for foundation work or to put elsewhere on different sites. This photo shows the completion of the Masonic Temple. Most of the construction is all done. The superstructure is in, and they just have to do the fine tuning on the building. You can still see the empty yard to the right, and it's far in advance to putting the stores. They still have to do a lot more excavation work for that construction. The next photo, we're going to see what the Masonic Temple looks like in its heyday. It was a beautiful building. It's sort of run down at this time, but back many years ago, especially the basement of the Masonic Temple, that was used for, it was rented. It was a large hall, and a lot of functions were run down in the basement. I know my graduation party was down there. My parents had their wedding down in the basement of the Masonic Temple. And I'm sure a lot of families could relate to using the Masonic Temple. This photo, the Masonic Temple was completed in 1922. So we have a little bit more information on the Masonic Temple. Now I'm going to be going to the next part of the program. This is all new work. I've been trying to pick a series of intersections and buildings that were related. And I hope everybody finds it interesting. We could always add more. Your recommendations, I'll try to find photos and incorporate.
Fascinating. It looks
Oh.
great.
Wonderful.
Okay, this picture is a current photograph. It's at the intersection of Fairview and Main Street. Let me bring up the highlighter. Here's the intersection, and right now it's showing 100 Main Street, the new condos on Main Street. And if you look in the background, you could see George Ulrich's home and grocery store. So this is pretty much what we have today when we walk down Main Street. Now we're going to go back a few years. On the right-hand side, we have the brick apartment building, and adjacent to it, there was a series of stores. I think there was just 3 stores that were attached to the brick building. This is back in the 60s. And again, this was prior to 100 Main Street condos. The next photo, we're going to go back even further. We're going to go back to 1930. In the early 30s, here's the apartment building. So this apartment building's been there for quite a while. You could see this is still at the intersection of Main Street and Fairview. I love the trucks. It really shows the year. The property on the extreme left-hand side, you could see a little piece of stone wall. That was part of the Myers a residential property. Now this slide here, it shows the Myers residence, and you could see the stone wall that's in front of the Myers resident. And what's not shown on the screen is a small portion of stone wall that abuts the red brick building. It's a shame this house is no longer there. It's such a beautiful piece of
Nick,
Americana.
my mother is telling me that she lived there as a child for a while.
Yes, yes,
And your
Oh, thank you.
grandparents were down the block?
yes.
Yeah, my grandparents lived down the block. We're going to see
Nice.
one in a few minutes.
Good.
But I just thought I'd show the Myers residence. Again, a beautiful house. I could picture sitting up here on the porch watching the trolleys go by. The photo is dated 1935. So this house has to be in the 1800s, mid 1800s. Now we're going to go back to the intersection, and here's Fairview. It's a hill, and just to the right of it, we have Ulrich's home and grocery store. This is a current, well, this photo is from the 1960s, but the building still looks great. Then we were very fortunate going through our extensive archives that Phil and Alice White and the History Committee have been working on over the years. we had some treasures in there. The next picture will show one of them. Here's George Ulrich, and these are his children. And this picture was from 1907. So the store really goes back. And what's really great is this little guy is, let's see, Julian Ulrich. And he's actually holding a horse hitching post. 1907, there were still carriages with horses. And I think that's pretty cool. I'd rather see the hitching post in a parking meter. Another great picture is George Ulrich in his store. So this is like a little mini Date Shopwell. I think it's really a great picture. George, from what I understand, was a very well-liked man. He was located at this location from 1907, and I think the store closed up in the early 1960s.
My mom is saying that she shopped there as a child. And, you know, just another fun fact, Sue Ulrich was married to Walter. She owned the little dress shop down when you were showing the last photos next to
Right.
Danny's on Main Street. And she was also next to the train station. So
Yeah, that's where
family has been there a long time.
where Growlers is.
But yes, in the front part,
Right,
absolutely.
right.
This is great.
It's wonderful.
Okay. Now the next picture. Okay, I'm back to the Myers residence. I showed it twice. Once I wanted to show it because of the stone wall. This time I'm showing the picture because you could see the building lot to the right of this building. And it's important to know, this is the other part of the property where 100 Main Street will fit in. Over here is where the house is. And the house was over here. And over here, they put the extension with the Myers residence. And this is a picture I just have taken not too long ago. It's a current picture. And now we'll go back 60 years. And here we are with Salerno's restaurant. Here's Terrace Place and Main Street. And those little shops that were attached to the brick building, if you look in the upper right-hand corner, you could see the brick building and the shops in front. The face of the shops changed over the years, and obviously the use that they were used for has changed. A little earlier, the building, different color. It was still Salerno's. They modernized in the last picture. Now we're back to 1935. The building that I'm highlighting right now was Reed's Tavern. George Viola had a little florist shop over here. And what's interesting is the building that I'm highlighting now, the bottom was Salerno's Meat Market. And then eventually Salerno's bought Reed's Market and they expanded it and it became Salerno's Restaurant. And you can see back then, Main Street was cobblestone, and we still had trolley tracks that are just barely visible in this picture. Now, before Reed's Tavern was there, that same location was Gottfried Honegger's Brewing Company. The building had the front porch ripped down. They expanded the building, but this building here was at Main Street and Terrace Place. This picture is dated 1907. It looks like a picture you would expect to see in the Old West.
I love it.
That's a great
You know,
picture.
Oh, my God.
It's just great. Now here's George Viola's. George's place was right across the street from Salerno's restaurant. Terrace Place is right where the sign is. Main Street is on this side. And George was just another gentleman. Always enjoyed talking with him. He was just great. Now we're jumping to the next corner. Now we're at the intersection of Main Street and Jefferson Place. We're looking west, and I think a lot of people know Lundy's deli and grocery store, and a little further was the Quarry Inn. And I think this was around 112 Main Street. Now we'll go back about 60 years. And it looks like a funeral, but it's a great picture of the way things looked when I was a child. We had billboard signs on the left going east. We had an apartment building. I know my aunt and uncle lived in this building. The small brick building was the Tuckahoe Laundry. And the next building was 112 Main Street. I said 112 because when I showed 112 Main Street was right between the Quarry Inn and Lundy's. And my grandparents lived here, my parents lived here. I know Arlene Gruber also lived in the same building. In fact, she lived next door to my grandparents. So there's a lot of memories, a lot of history over here. Here's 112 Main Street. Just a simple apartment building. Next door was the owner of the laundry for Tuckahoe. The fish market down on the bottom floor, before it was a fish market, it was Main Street Barber Shop, which was owned by my grandfather. So my grandfather had a real difficult commute. He'd come from upstairs and he'd be at work when he got downstairs. And here's Main Street Barber Shop with my grandfather and pictures of my father, my uncle.
Oh, that's
World War
a
II.
great,
Ah,
oh, that's
ah,
a wonderful picture.
Wonderful.
So it's great to see Gramps once in a while. This picture is definitely in the 1940s. Here we are still on Main Street and Jefferson Place. And again, I had family aunts and uncles that lived in this building with my cousins. There was a luncheonette downstairs. And I think this was Leone's had this restaurant, if I'm correct. And this picture also shows the billboard signs that went along Main Street, and it went from Jefferson to a service station further to the left. This photograph is again a shot today, and it shows Washington Street to the left, and going up and down the screen is Main Street. Jefferson is all the way down in the background. And I went through one of the school archives, And I found a picture that will show really what this area looked like back in the 60s. It was, again, a school photograph with a parade going up Main Street. You
Oh,
could
that's a
see,
great
you could
shot.
see the art, you could see the apartment building in the background. Down here was the Tuckahoe Laundry and all the billboards, and we had the Citgo station. So there's not many, we're very lucky to have these pictures. They really show what it was like. It was so simple, and it was Tuckahoe when I was young. This photograph, again, is an up-to-date photo. It shows Midland Place and Main Street with the new condominiums. It looks beautiful. I threw in a map. I wanted to show really, this is the location where the new condos are. And back in 1946, when this map was drawn, there was a service station here. Over here, we had Midland Lumber and woodworking. We had the Coca-Cola plant. There was so much going on over here. The map shows Bristol Myers had an office and lab right on Main Street. And before it was Bristol Myers, it was Harris Labs. And Harris Labs had a lot of products that they made, including vitamin B, which was new. We even show a little bit of Marbledale Road. So I'm going to be showing photos of Marbledale Road. And you could see they had OD Chemical Plant and the Tuckahoe Ice Company. So there was a lot going on. And there was also Shiloh Baptist Church was located where I'm highlighting right now. And we're going to be seeing pictures of all of this. The first picture I'm going to show right now is Midland Woodworking. The unfortunate thing, it's only a sketch or a litho, but it shows Midland Woodworking Company. It was on Midland Avenue, Midland Place, pardon me. And I remember going by it. I remember going there to purchase stuff for my parents, but we have no photographs. If anybody has photographs, please contact us at the Historical Committee. I'd love to get some photos of the Midland Woodworking. The Texaco Ace Auto Supply and Service Station was located to the extreme left. And this picture is from the 1930s. On the corner, before the condos were built, we had the woodworking, and we also had Crestwood RV Center. It wasn't just RVs that were sold there. They also sold boats. And this photo's looking west from the top of the hill, and you could see this is the old woodworking office, and the RV center took over the whole property. You could see the boats and all the RVs. Also, where I'm highlighting right now is the Coca-Cola building and the Coca-Cola warehouse. So there was a lot going on. The Main Street Playground was to the extreme right. This picture is in the 1960s. Now, here's Midland Place. we had the projects, and a lot of us lived in the projects in the early days. I remember living in the projects, and they were right across the street from the woodworking, and we had the Speedway lube and gas station. This picture's again in the 1960s also. Now we're going to go back even further. And here we are in the 1930s. The speed shop eventually would be here, but we had the Texaco Ace Auto Supply Company.
That's a great shot, Nick, at the
Yes.
hill
This
with
is-
immaculate
it's a
Wow.
beautiful picture. And
Wow.
you can see the Immaculate Conception at the top of the hill and the Immaculate Conception School. And this picture was dated 1930s. Across the street on this side of the block, a little earlier, we had Tuckahoe Coca-Cola bottling plant. Unfortunately, we don't have a picture that shows the Coca-Cola sign. I thought that would have been iconic. We tried reaching out to Coca-Cola. They don't have any pictures of it. And I'm sure somebody somewhere has a picture, maybe walking by. And if they do, we'd love it. If you go to the left and you go up Midland, we're gonna see this part of the Coca-Cola. And here's the warehouse. And there was also a driveway in the background that went to the back and side of the building to bring the trucks. This picture was probably, I'm looking at the cars and I'm assuming that it's probably the 40s.
Anybody who grew up in Tuckahoe and, walked down Main Street couldn't help but listening to those bottles rattling over the conveyor belts. And actually, Chris from the History Committee told me that the school went there on a school trip and had a little tour of the factory. So I guess they were really embedded in the community and included the schools, which was nice.
Yeah. Okay, now I'm shooting over. We're looking from Main Street up Marbledale Road. This is a current picture. You can see the senior citizens in the background. We have the CubeSmart self-storage. On the extreme left, we have the Midland Place Park. Now we'll shoot back to the 60s. And CubeSmart was King's Electronics. My wife worked there, and King's Electronics, in fact, a lot of people I knew worked at King's. Now we're going to go back about 100 years, and we have the Waddleton Furniture Company. And the Waddleton Furniture Company, they made fine furniture for the wealthy families in Manhattan. And if you notice where the kids are playing, you could see the railroad siding coming south on Marbledale Road. The railroad siding originally was made for the marble industry, which was a little further north on Marbledale Road. And the siding would go east towards, I should say west, towards the railroad, the New York Central Railroad. And Waddleton would put furniture on the trains, and it would go to the New York Central and to Manhattan, the same as the marble industry. So there was a lot of action going on with the railroad and the manufacturing of furniture and the cutting of marble. There was a tremendous amount of work going on. But this is a great picture. The kids should find another place to play. Another photograph. Here's Waddleton again. And if just to the left of this fire hydrant is the property where Shiloh Baptist is located today. The next photo that we're going to show, if you go to the left of the Waddleton Furniture Company, I had to throw this in. This is the Tuckahoe Ice Company plant. And again, Shiloh Baptist would be built on this property right here. The photo was probably, I think, in the 1920s, 1930 time frame. And if you look at the top of the hill, there's really very little up there. There was a gentleman named Cronin who had a property on Main Street going up towards Waverly Square. It was a beer garden, a restaurant, and from what I've read, it was also a hotel. So I think a lot of the workers and people that came from New York City needed a place to stay. So there were quite a few hotels, boarding houses in Tuckahoe to accommodate. This photograph I thought was an important one to show. It's a Julius Bean map, and it shows Tuckahoe in 1893. What's nice is you could see Waverly Square, and Waverly Square back in the late 1800s was part of Tuckahoe. It was, from what I read, it was a hamlet, and it was part of Tuckahoe. That's why I threw Waverly Square into this presentation. What's interesting with this map is Main Street was called Breckenridge Street at that time, and it only extended to Maynard Street. It didn't go any further because this was all quarry property. A couple of other quick pointers, points of interest. I never knew that, again, looking at the highlighter, right up here, this is Hall Street in Waverly. And where did Hall Street get its name? Right here was the town hall for Eastchester back in 1893. And I thought that was pretty cool. Now I'm going to be showing some pictures.
What a
Right.
great map, Nick.
Wow,
That is a
wow.
fantastic map.
Right here is the Immaculate Conception Church. And just so you could relate to the area, right here is Value Drugs. Value Drugs would be built right here on Tuckahoe Avenue. And the Immaculate Conception Church is located right here. If you look to the left, upper left, where it says lake, this is the Parkway Oval Lake. It extended under the railroad and probably up to Columbus Avenue when Columbus Avenue gets built. And that I thought was pretty interesting. And what we saw a few minutes ago with the ice house on Marbledale Road, there was also a National Ice House down in the Parkway Oval adjacent to the railroad. So they would get ice from the lake, cut the ice, put it into the ice houses, and then the ice would be put onto train cars and carted to New York or the Bronx. And so the ice industry was pretty big. I think it was 1902. Tuckahoe didn't have any electricity until 1902. So no electric, no refrigerator. Now we're working our way up to Waverly Square. Here's a today updated picture of Waverly Square looking north up Main Street. Here's the Eastchester Inn, and to the right of it is the Chow's parking lot. Here we are with Chow's, and we're showing Tuscana at this protrusion in the road. Again, here's Main Street, and here's John Albany's place. Now we'll go back a few years where Chow's is located. We had a restaurant called Ciati's, and this is on John Albany's place. And this is where Chow's restaurant gets built. The building to the extreme left is the Eastchester Inn today. So you could relate to where we're at. The building on the left was Waverly Bar and Grill. It was run by a gentleman, Chubby Cade. And I think today it's called the Green Room by some. Now I'm going back to a map just so we could relate. The Ciati's was located right here. Here's where the Eastchester Inn is today. When I found the map, one thing I never realized was Waverly greenhouses were located over here. And when I think back, when I was a young guy, I remember seeing the greenhouses. So I'm hoping somebody that's listening knows someone or has pictures of the greenhouses. It'll be a great add to our collection.
Nick, I didn't realize that was Old White Plains Road.
Yeah, I didn't know it either. But they eventually, when Albanese's was there, they dedicated the road to John Albanese.
Right, but that was the original, White Plains Road went that way, and then they must have
Yeah.
straightened it.
And what we call Main Street today was Midland Avenue. So there was a lot of change. Here we are back at Tuscana, and this is a current picture. And now we'll go back to the 1940s, where Tuscana was Annabelle's Grill, or we knew it as Annabelle's Diner, a very popular place where everybody hung out. I have a couple of nice pictures. I like the old vehicles. And here's another great picture of Annabelle's. And if I'm correct, to the left, the brick building is where Ciati's was. And I think when it was a brick building, it was Albanese's. Now we're coming to some pictures that I really enjoy. Again, here's the Eastchester Inn and the stores just to the left of it. Here's another picture that's current with the Eastchester Inn, the stores. Over here we have I think it's called Super Cuts, Super Deli, or
Yeah, Super Deli, yes.
and we're looking north on Main Street. And now we're going to go back 100 years. Here's the same building where the Eastchester Inn is. The series of stores was a private residence, white picket fence, Real Americana, Um, At the intersection, we have the Saccone Building. Walter Quirk had a stationery store on the bottom floors. And the Eastchester Inn was Hotel Waverly. This photograph, this picture is from 1910. What's interesting was about Waverly Square was this is where the trolleys met. You could get a trolley from Yonkers. It would take the people to Waverly Square. From Waverly Square, you would get a transfer, and you can go to Mount Vernon, you can go to White Plains, and when the car would go to White Plains, it would stop at Mill Road and take people to New Rochelle. And from what I understand, it was a nickel to take the trolley. So you have to really leave early to get to work. It's a long ride. Here's another great picture. This is from 1910. It shows the tower for the Saccone Building and the Hotel Waverly. This picture is from 1910. We had private residence. It was very quaint, very nice. Another photo. This one I took to try to mimic an older photo. This is Highland Avenue and Main Street. And now we'll go back 80 years. Here's almost the same picture with the stores. And over here we have Higgins Hardware, Waverly Confectionery, and the Saccone Building. This photo's, again, looking north, but now I'm going to start working on the Greek and Mediterranean cuisine restaurant to the left, right adjacent to Jackson Avenue. This is a current photograph.
That's Jack's. That's Jack's now.
Oh, it changed. Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's Jack's.
Yeah, this is probably just pre-COVID. I think Jack's opened during COVID.
Okay. And we have Jackson Avenue to the side. I don't know, I tried finding the name of the restaurant back when this picture was taken. It looks like it might be in the 60s, but it doesn't look like Foley and O'Brien's, which I remember.
I think, did we say Edmundo's?
It used to be
Edmundo's.
Spatafores back in my day.
It may have changed names many times, but I don't recall. But again, looking at this picture, here it is in 1930s. And again, it's the intersection of Jackson Avenue and Main Street. We're still looking north. We still have the Saccone Building. We have the stores on the right with Walter Quirk's place. When I zoomed in on the store that I'm highlighting, it was Agustin's Drugstore, and there was a bar and grill located just to the right of it. And here's a picture back in 1910 showing the same building. From what I understand with the building, when they had the second floor, there was bowling upstairs in the building. And from what they say, the building had an explosion and a fire, and they lost the top floor and they never replaced it. If you look in the background, again, you could see the church steeple And this was the original Immaculate Conception. So you could be in the Waverly Square, look up the street and see the church. Very, very beautiful building. And again, back then we had horse and carriage. The trolleys were great. And again, on the right, you could see the residence, and it was with the white picket fence. This is before the stores were built. Now we'll take a look at the church. We'll go up the street a little bit. And here's the original Immaculate Conception Church. And it was at Main Street and Tuckahoe Avenue. Beautiful, beautiful building.
That's lovely, Nick. I've never
Oh,
seen that.
I
That
never
really
did
is
either. That
great.
was beautiful.
What's that, the church?
The
Church.
church.
I have a
Yeah.
lot more information on the church. I was going to do another program on the churches. So that'll be a future
That's
program.
nice.
Beautiful,
We do so
beautiful,
many
yeah.
beautiful churches in the village.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are back in Waverly Square, and we're looking towards Jackson Avenue. The building on the left is Lukert's building, and Lukert's had a meat market. From looking at maps, it said there was a police department. I don't know if the police department was part of the Lukert building or a building adjacent to the Lukert building. The two stores that were down here, I said there was the Agatston's drugstore, and it was Tom Freely's Bar and Grill that was located adjacent. In the later years, when these stores closed up, the Spatafor family took over the building. I think Patsy Spatafor was the owner. This is another view looking north on Main Street from the Waverly Square. And now you don't see the tower any longer for the church, but we have a tower noted in the background. And this tower is part of Waverly School. And we found a beautiful picture of Waverly School. Now, this picture is 1900. I think this is a great photo of the school.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
And we'll go a little further north. Before I show the next few pictures, a map really helps. Here's where the Immaculate Conception Church is. Here's Tuckahoe, I think it's Tuckahoe Avenue. And right here is where Value Drugs is located, or Waverly Lanes used to be. And I came across a picture that showed a reservoir, and I finally found it on the maps. And this reservoir, this is probably the highest point in Eastchester, and perfect for a gravity flow to get water to Tuckahoe and to Waverly. It was a 1 million gallon reservoir, and it was run by New Rochelle Water Company. I did a little research, went to the Westchester County Historical Society and found this picture. And looking at the gentleman in the corner, I assumed he's 6 feet. So I said, okay, he's leaning back. I said, these panels have to be 5 by 10. So being an engineer by trade, I worked out some calculations and I came up with a 1 million gallon tank. So that's what the map says. So it worked out perfectly. Now this was, again, just north of the church, and the Waverly Firehouse is going to be taking up part of this property. So I have some pictures that show the Waverly Firehouse with the reservoir. And here's the Waverly Firehouse. This is from 1920. And here's the reservoir in the background. So I'm trying to tie everything together to try to make a somewhat cohesive story. And here's another picture of the Waverly Firehouse looking west from Tuckahoe Avenue. So from Value Drugs looking down, and you had all woods and empty lots. So it was pretty nice. And that's really the program for tonight. We got
Wow, that's amazing. I have a question about, now was this part of the church that was built into the firehouse
no,
after they moved it?
no, the church was a wooden church
Okay,
that was taken
Became
down.
a school.
because the steeple
The
looks,
Church became the school. the
Oh,
wooden church.
Okay.
I got confused
They moved it.
myself with the two steeples, but there's a big difference in the steeples. So
That's
this
amazing.
was a totally new building that was put up for the firehouse. At one point, I thought the firehouse had something to do with Waverly School because the structures look fairly similar, but no. I'll open the floor to questions or.
Anybody have any questions?
Nick, was that also the police station right next door to the firehouse?
I really don't know.
Because that little section over there next to the firehouse, I remember going there to the police station when I was a little kid.
You know.
You mean that
I-
little door, Alice, next to the
Yes,
car?
little door, yeah, next to the,
Okay,
Oh, this was the police station? You know what I'll do, Alice? The next program I do, I'll put an answer to that right at the beginning, just like I did with the Masonic Temple.
Right.
And that'll be a first, I'll solve that question. I'll try to get some pictures in there. And
and you know what, Nick, maybe stop sharing and then we could, also, if anybody feels comfortable, we are still recording, but if anybody feels comfortable, they could come on screen or just ask questions.
okay. you
And,
want me to-
and we want to thank Alice too. Alice White is here, who is one of the founders of all this wonderful collection of history for Tuckahoe history. We wouldn't have any of this if Phil and Alice White didn't start this, and Nick, who came and visited one day
All I wanted was
for one picture, got the
One
rest.
and you're
picture.
still there, Nick, don't go away.
All I wanted was one picture, Alice, in what is it,
I
7 years?
know, that was such a fun day. You even offered to pay so you could do this. I thought that was so funny.
I love every minute of it. Eventually I'll let the cat out of the bag, but eventually we're gonna be able to let everybody see our archives, maybe on TV or on their computers. So we have a lot of technology coming out soon. So
Oh, that'd be wonderful. I don't know how to thank everybody for keeping the Tuckahoe History Committee going. I
Well,
enjoy every minute.
Ah,
there's so
you've
much-
inspired us.
there's so
That's
much.
right.
We have something in the chat. Linda Hearn said, great presentation. Thank you. Does anybody else want to share anything about the presentation tonight? Amazing presentation
it
as
was
always, Nick.
excellent.
I hope
Brought
it
back
came
a lot
through
of
okay.
memories.
Thank you so much, Nick. It was amazing. Some of the stuff I remember, we moved in Tuckahoe in 1989, but some of the near the Marbledale Road, the gas station and the RV parking lot, boat, all those places were still there in 1989. I remember.
Yeah, a lot of change has happened with urban renewal, and but we still have the memories. We still have all the photos and the archives, and I could work on this for another 100 years.
I know. Thank you so
We have-
much.
We have so much,
Yeah.
but Alan, I will be getting in touch with you to go over the history of Westchester Funeral.
Okay, Nick, I'm all for it. Right after the first of the year, we'll sit down.
It's
Terrific.
wonderful.
Very
And we
good,
have
Alan.
Edward Woodward Jr. saying thank you for a wonderful presentation. Lucretia Dorenzo, very enjoyable, thank you. And we know, Lucretia, a lot of history here in Tuckahoe with
You
your
know,
family as well. And Edward as well. I know last time you were on the last presentation, it's so nice to have everybody back again because we all share in this wonderful history, these memories.
A couple of future programs that I've already started. One is Crestwood, and we found some fantastic pictures of buildings on the west side of the railroad tracks in the park. They're beautiful buildings. You're going to love it. I'm also doing a program on the Depot Square, and the Depot Square is a program all by itself. So much has happened with the raising of the Depot Square, the lowering of the railroad tracks, the mini Depot Square, and then it was enlarged. I have maps, pictures to show the whole transition. The building
Well,
it.
we have so much to look forward to. And the next program we're going to be doing at the library is going to be the Eastchester Historical Society's historic map with Lissa Halen. And so we're just narrowing down the date for that. If any of you have seen, it was presented to the Tuckahoe Village the other day. Tuckahoe Village is actually selling copies of the map. They're $25. And we're going to do, Lissa is going to do a program for us where she's going to talk about all the sites on the map. So we look forward to that. We know Nick is also going to be back with another one of his programs. And we thank you, Nick, so much for this,
You
beautiful
are amazing.
presentation. And we thank everybody for coming tonight. Wish you all a happy Thanksgiving if we don't see you, okay?
Wow, coming soon.
It's coming soon. And come to we still have many programs happening in the next couple of weeks. So thank you so much. And everybody have a good evening.
Thanks,
you.
Thank you
Elaine.
so
Hope
much.
you enjoyed.
Thank you.
Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you. Thanks, Swadish. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was wonderful.
Thanks,
program.
Alice.
Thank